It's no Willie's, but I had fun with it. Doesn't look like everyone did, though. I think enough people liked it. Uh, you don't gotta do that loud banging all the time. Can't even hand me the movie yet. Okay, fine, I get it. I'll review Five Nights at Freddy's. Hello, I'm Shyboy616, and welcome to my review of Five Nights at Freddy's, the actual movie this time. If you look back a few days ago, I put up my review of Willy's Wonderland, a movie that was regarded as the knockoff Five Nights at Freddy's, despite there not actually being a Five Nights movie at the time of its release. People looked at it that way because of the similar concept of an abandoned family fun center being haunted by animatronics. I'm going to try to not mention Willy's until the end of the review, as I want to keep this a Five Nights review, and it's going to be much more brief compared to my last one, as I'm not going to give you the play-by-play the same way. Before hopping into this review, I'm going to preface this by saying I am not a fan of FNAF. I'm not saying I don't like it, I'm just saying I never got into it, so I never played all the games, I don't know all the story, so I went into this movie somewhat blindly. I got enough to understand what was supposed to happen, but not if it was going to be accurate to the source material. I'll admit, I thought the trailer looked bad. The trailer, I think, does the movie a terrible disservice, so if you kind of brush the movie off from the trailer, give it a chance anyways, because I think the trailer was not very good, but the movie itself, I think, is worth at least checking out, and this is why. Just about every scene at Freddy's, except for a few conversations we're going to talk about later, everything at Freddy's, particularly with the animatronics, I think were great. They hired the Jim Henson Company to make puppets of Freddy and his band, and I think that was an awesome approach because it looks amazing. When I saw the trailer, I thought it was mostly going to be CGI or costumes and maybe even some stand-ins for the CGI, but no, it looks like they used puppets for almost the whole movie. And I think that was an amazing approach because it looks super cool. Now into the story, the part that bugged me. Now I was disappointed to find out the movie was an hour and 50 minutes. I didn't really pay attention to what time I went to the theater versus when I walked out. I looked at my phone because I was rating it on IMDb and Letterboxd, so check that out for spoiler-free reviews, check out my Letterboxd. And when I looked at that, I was like, huh. The movie didn't feel like it was almost 2 hours. I will say it was very well paced. I did feel that not enough time was spent at Freddy's. I feel like a little too much time was given to what I'm gonna call the subplots. And that's because the main story and plot, I believe, was always meant to be the security job at Freddy's. Now I get why they did it, I just feel it could have been shorter, and this is what it all is. Our lead, Josh Hutcherson, is playing Mike Schmidt. This guy's going to become the security guard that ends up working at Freddy's. He struggles to keep a job but needs to be able to take care of himself and his little sister Abby, as their parents have been out of the picture. I'm gonna guess like maybe the first 10 to 15 minutes are spent on this part of the movie, but it is necessary to set up him getting this job. The part that I feel like got too much time though and too much attention was the whole child custody thing. Their evil aunt, as they both hate her, is trying to gain custody of Abby for whatever reason. She spends the movie trying to dig up some dirt so they can take her away, but there's nothing. He does what he can, it's just he's struggling obviously. Abby's seen as a weird little girl that's constantly drawing pictures and talking to imaginary friends. This is part of Mike's struggle of taking care of Abby, but he's able to work with it anyways because he loves his sister and wants to keep her. And she wants to stay with him too, so that's a big part that matters. The other part of this that I think is a little too long is his dreams. There's several dream sequences throughout the movie. When Mike was a kid, he was camping with his family and his little brother. This would have been years before Abby was born. While they're out camping, his little brother gets kidnapped by a stranger out in the woods with them. It always ends with him seeing his brother being driven away from him in this mysterious car. He goes into this dream several times, and he's purposely trying to have this dream so he can try to figure out who it is. After working with Freddy's though, the dreams start changing, and he starts seeing these kids, which if you look closely, they're representing the different animatronics. He starts following them to see if they can give him answers, and as time goes on, he starts connecting dots like, oh, these kids, you know, they're going to actually use that thing from the games where the animatronics are possessed by the victims of the owner. And that's something that gets revealed later, but I'm not going to talk too much about it. So they do keep that story element at least. And I didn't even know that until after the movie. I never knew that's what it was. He starts connecting dots as time goes on, and it starts looking like the same guy that did the thing to these kids is the same one that took his brother. He gets a lot of this information from a cop that swings by Freddy's every now and then while she's on her shift. She seems to know a lot about this place, saying that she grew up with it and was a big fan of it when the place was open. I think the conversations with her were all too long. I think they spent a lot of time between these two characters to maybe try to make them something, but in the end, it's just a lot of waste of time, I feel, that could have been at Freddy's instead. Even at Freddy's, they have a couple conversations there that I think just we didn't really need them to be what they were. I think my favorite scene in the movie is the bit where these people break in, and this is what sets up where Mike needs to start taking Abby to Freddy's with them, and that's how she befriends the animatronics, and that's what really kicks off the major part of the movie. At the end, we get a reveal of who the big bad boss is at Freddy's, and if you know anything about the source material, you know exactly who that is. We do have a whole moment where Mike and the animatronics unite after he just spent time taking them down, which I feel that should have been the main point of the movie, was each night maybe he's dealing with an animatronic, and as time goes on he starts dealing with multiple at a time or something. But no, he just kind of has this like fairly quick fight with each of them back to back, and I just wish that was something that was stretched out longer. Anyways, they unite and take down William Afton himself. But again, if you know anything about the source material, this seems to be the perfect setup for the sequels, as it looks like they're planning to, at the very least, make a trilogy. Which by the movie's end, I think I will be watching any sequels they put out, as long as the next one's good. Because while this one I think did a pretty good job, I feel they could have done better with the points I was making along the way. I understand why they did it, but I'm hoping now that we got all this character stuff out of the way, that the next movies can focus a lot more on the scares and action pieces. And maybe even cut down on the runtime, as that can be the main focus. Because obviously I feel they're going to give us more background, more story as we go on, but I don't think we need as much for the characters as we need for Freddy's. Now I ended up giving the movie a 6. I could have given it a 7 if it had done the things that I was saying. If we didn't have too much of this background talking and stuff going on, I think I could have been a lot more into this movie. Now I took a jab at the critical ratings when I was making my Willy's Wonderland review, at least in making my thumbnail, but what it seems to be is that the audience response ranges from mostly middling to really positive, that really positive being fans of FNAF. After the movie, I had to ask some questions and look around online to find out how much of this stuff was accurate to the source material, and I think they did a pretty good job. It also helps that the original creator was apparently a part of the writing process. It seems that if you're already a big fan of Five Nights, you'll either appreciate this movie or go as far as to love it just like the rest of the franchise. If you're just a casual fan or just into horror, you'll probably have a pretty middling response. I saw some people had a really negative reaction to this movie, saying it wasn't a horror. I think they're just complaining. There's definitely horror scenes in here, because there's a lot of horror movies out there where it's not constantly scares or the scary atmosphere. This one definitely goes in and out of it. But a lot of that has to do with the fact Five Nights catered a lot to children, apparently. I don't know if that was really expected to happen, but it's what did. They knew kids were going to be seeing this too, so they had to bring things down, but they don't bring it down too much to the point that it's not scary at all. There's definitely some scares in there that'll work on younger audiences, and maybe not so much on the older, seasoned veterans of horror movies. Now to tie back in with Willy's Wonderland, if you like the concept of animatronics coming to life and that fight that could ensue from that, definitely check out Willy's Wonderland. Obviously, if you like Five Nights, you're going to watch the Five Nights movie. But what I'm saying is, if you just really like that concept and would like to see it more fleshed out or another take on the concept, Willy's is well worth the watch. I would say it's a must watch in that case. Now, I personally prefer Willy's Wonderland and its approach to staying at Willy's Wonderland versus Five Nights not staying at Freddy's the entire time. I'm not saying it had to be there the entire time, it just felt like we were leaving the joint a little too much. If you enjoyed what you saw, leave a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and share the video. I'm Shyboy616, and for the last time in 2023, happy Halloween. I will see you next time.